Hello everyone, and welcome to my A-10 CDU video. This is going to be a surface level look at the CDU, but it's going to teach you all the things you need to know about it and none of the things you don't need to know about it, hopefully in a way that allows you to understand what's going on instead of just memorizing rotary turns and button pushes. I'm going to try and keep this as basic as possible in a way that understands. I mean, I've watched the videos online that have super in-depth looks, and I've read the A-10 flight manual, and I was still pretty far in the dark about understanding what everything did. And it's like, okay, so to create a waypoint, you're going to turn this knob here and push this button, and I'm like, okay, great, but why? Why am I doing this? And worse still, I would go and screw something up and then have no idea where that waypoint I just created is or how to access it or anything like that. So hopefully, if you ever had that problem before, just like I have, this video is going to help you out and allow you to understand things so that you're able to navigate the CDU and never get lost again, and it's not going to be so boring. It's like, you know, reading out of the manual. So let's get started. First off, I'm going to assume you know what you're doing in the A-10. You know how to make a SOI, you know how to make a SPI, you know what a HOTAS is, you know what your TMS is. I'm not going to go into those things in depth. But the first thing I am going to suggest you do, come into your controls here, go down to the CDU panel, and I want you to bind all of your numbers and letters on the keyboard so that their respective numbers and letters are exactly what they are for the CDU as what they are on the keyboard. Now the reason for this is because no one is really using the shortcuts on the keyboard to click to get to things in the A-10. Like, you have a HOTAS, you have a stick and throttle, that's going to be most of the inputs you put in the airplane, and you also are going to click things in the cockpit with your mouse, or if you're super fancy, your VR controllers. But I mean, who's using the keyboard shortcut to turn on the master arm or uncage the SAI? I mean, come on, people, really. So this just makes typing things so much easier. Am I right? So just humor me and do that. Yes, my backspace is the clear button on the CDU. Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, a couple things about the HOTAS I want you to think about. First is that TMS up long is going to be create SPI, and TMS back long is delete SPI. No. Don't think of it that way. TMS aft long is slave SPI to steer point. This is important. The reason for that this is so important is because a lot of people think of just resetting it to default, but you have to have a SPI. There's no such thing as not having a SPI. So instead of thinking of it as clearing the SPI or deleting the SPI, I want you to think of it as moving the SPI to the steer point. Okay, so diving right in here. Ooh, too far. Okay, so the first thing you need to understand about the CDU is this panel right here. This panel is what confused me the most. I mean, what the hell is the difference between flight plan and mission and mark? I mean, everyone knows what a mark point is, but what's the difference between a flight plan and mission? Okay, so the A-10, like similar to a SPI, the A-10 always must have a steer point. And the steer point is simply what the HUD is referencing right here in this data block, and what it's going to show you on the HUD, like so. So what the A-10 is looking for in a steer point is referenced by this knob. Now it can look at the flight plan, which is a couple of waypoints that have been put into a flight plan, which is always auto-generated at the start of every single mission, or you could set it to mission, and now it's going to look at every single waypoint in the A-10's database, or you can set it to mark point, and now it'll look at your mark points to make steer points out of instead. Now, if this all sounds really confusing, you're in luck, because I have a handy-dandy graphic I made. Okay, this looks like a wall of text, but it's really not that complicated, okay? So basically you have two kinds of data points that are stored in the A-10. You have waypoints and you have mark points. A waypoint, you get 2,077 of them. 0 is always the starting position of the A-10. 1 to whatever is usually the flight plan that's created in the mission editor or is pre-made by the mission designer, etc., etc. And then there are some other preloaded waypoints, which are usually the local airfields. There's a couple of them in there. The last waypoint in the database is usually the bullseye. And think of these as navigation points. If you want your steer point to look at them, you have two ways of doing it. You can set it to flight plan, which is the flight plan, or you can set it to mission, which will access the entire database of waypoints. This bears repeating. Mission accesses all of the waypoints stored in the A-10. So, putting this into a practical application, you switch this bugger over here to flight plan, and now you'll see as I go through my steer points, I only have the ones that I made for my flight plan in the actual start of the mission. If I turn off my map over here, you can see I made a little box pattern for myself. That's the flight plan. That's all you get. You can only access those 5 waypoints, counting the initial one and the last one being waypoint number 5. That's 6 total. You can only access these waypoints that are in the flight plan. Now, we come down here and we set this sucker to mission. We come back here. We still get the initial position and the 5 waypoints I added in addition to that, but you also get, oh, look at that, Senaki, Anapa, Krasnodar, Novoros, Krimsk, Maykop. A bunch of other airfields are added on there. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom and go to the max waypoint, you have waypoint 2049, which happens to be the bullseye. So that's what I was talking about with that. So now, mark points. Mark points are a little bit different, but they're not any more complicated. So mark points, you get 26 of them, Alpha through Zulu. Zulu is always the last location the weapon was used. The first mark point you create will be Alpha, and then it'll increment through Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, Foxtrot, Golf, etc., 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 all the way through Yankee. And then if you make another mark point after that, it'll start overrunning mark point Alpha, and continue through. Zulu cannot be created or deleted and will always be the last place a weapon was used. Think of these as stored targets. Okay? So, why is this important? Well, I'll show you. So I've gone and made a couple of mark points with my TGP already. So, if I come down here and set this sucker to mark, now my steer point is going to cycle through the ones I made. I made 4 of them, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta. And now, why is this important to create these mark points and reference them like that? Because if you were astute and you were listening, you will see that the SPI, if it's defaulting to the steer point, will go to whichever one I select. This is how those badasses go and fucking ripple off like 6 JDAMs all at once and get the hell out of Dodge and do all those kinds of badass things. You just find the targets you want to bomb, set a mark point for each one, set this bugger down here to mark point, and then you can just switch your SPI super rapidly without having to slew your pod around and TMS up long and create a new SPI and blah 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 blah. Way too much work, way too much work. Just do it this way. So, remember I was talking before, the A-10 always has a steer point. And the steer point is always going to reference one of 2 things. It's going to reference a waypoint from the mission database, which is all the waypoints, or one of the waypoints that happens to be in a flight plan, if you have the flight plan selected. So really, flight plan is just the waypoint selector with extra steps in that it limits you to which ones you can access. Alright, so if you ever create a waypoint and you can't find what you just did, you probably have a set in flight plan, and the waypoint you created is not in the flight plan, and now you can't find it and you don't know why. So the A-10 always has a steer point, and it's always going to reference either a waypoint or a mark point. And it's always going to be controlled by the steer point auxiliary avionics panel, whatever the knob is set to. So the A-10 also always has a SPI. You cannot get rid of the SPI. Now remember I said earlier in the video that you have to hit TMS aft long to default the SPI to the steer point. This is important because now when you switch your steer point around into whatever database you're doing, the SPI is going to follow it. Alright, the A-10 always has a SPI. And so while you can make a SPI that's going to look at something that's not a steer point or a mark point, that's not going to be saved in the database, defaulting the SPI to one of these 2 things is quicker rather. So what you could do now is if you have a waypoint that is over a target location, it helps you out quicker, or if you make a bunch of mark points over targets, you can switch between them quicker, and it's just a faster way of referencing all those things. Cool, so that's it for most of the philosophy part of it. So now let's get down to the nuts and bolts, alright? So, looking at the CDU here, let's just stick it in flight plan for now, and let's talk about that. So, steer point, like I said, you know, if you're an accomplished A-10 pilot, 99% of the time you're going to have the HUD is soy, and you're going to be going forward and aft on the DMS to go through your steer points. But if you, for whatever reason, had your teapot as soy or something like that, and you're lazy and you don't feel like switching your HUD back to soy, you can use this little rocker right here to go through your steer points as well. So that's kind of neat as well. But anyway, so that's that. This guy over here is a little confusing as well. I like to think of this knob as a reference knob. Alright? So when it's in the other selection, you use these system pages to look at the different pages of the CDU. Alright? So you probably don't care about most of these, but the waypoint page is super, super handy because now you can go and create and edit new waypoints. Alright? Position knob, give you a quick look at where you are right now. The steer point knob is just quick info on the steer point you have selected, and the waypoint knob is quick info on whatever you're trying to look for. If you want to see one of their other waypoints, you can actually start typing into the scratch pad here. Like, let's say I want to look at waypoint 5. I type in a 5 and I put it there. It's like, oh hey, there's waypoint 5, which is called mission 4, and it can show you all the data about it. If you want to explore further, you would hit waypoint here, and now it'll show you the lat long, the elevation, and then if you scroll down a page here, you can enter your desired time to go or your desired time on target. We'll get into that in a second. The point is, 99% of the time, you're going to be in other here because other allows you to select these pages, whereas if you're in steer page, you can't access other pages. This is another place where people get hung up. It's like, oh, I want to create a waypoint. Why can't I pick the waypoint page? Well, that's because you need to be in other in order to access the other pages here. Alright, so that's a little tad confusing. Hopefully that clears that up for you. Okay, so I'm actually doing this part over because I misspoke when I originally recorded this section of the video. So let's take a look at the CDU itself. First off, there are a couple things that are important. The top line here, this right here will always be whatever steer point the A-10 is currently looking at. This will always be the title of the page you're looking at. Like right now we're on the waypoint page. Other is always going to remember whatever page you are in. So if you were to go to position or waypoint info, which remember it's just the info of the waypoint, and then go back to other, it'll remember exactly where you were, which is super handy. So remember, the steer point does not change on the waypoint page. So if I were to go up and down through my steer points, notice the steer points here are going up and down, but the waypoint I'm currently looking at is still waypoint 4 right here. Alright, so this one time I was entering time on targets and I just kept hitting DMS up to go to the next steer point to put in the next time for the next waypoint, and it was just switching my steer points, and I kept putting in different times on the same waypoint, which obviously didn't work at all. And so one last thing, if you start to type, it'll auto guess what you're looking at right there, which is super handy too if you're trying to like search for a waypoint. So there you have that. And then one more thing I'm going to say about that real quickly, you know, it's like, why would you ever need to use that auto search function? Well, recall before I said that it manages to keep a database of nearby airports for you automatically. Well, say you're trying to go to Senaki and you don't know where it is and you want to navigate to real fast, you can start typing Senaki and oh look, there's Senaki. Boom, now I'm going there. And I can just make waypoint number 51 my steer point and it'll guide me right to Senaki. So that's actually a super handy feature to have. Okay, so time to get super technical. How do you create a waypoint? Alright, so let's say JTAC or your buddy or whatever is like, hey man, I want you to look at hangar number 13. It's Senaki, and that's right there, hangar number 13. So in order to switch the lat long up here into a coordinate the A-10 likes, it's going to be left alt Y on the keyboard to cycle those between all the different kinds of coordinates. You want the one that has the decimals there for the A-10. You can also use this one, which is the what the hell do they call it? MRGS or UTM or something like that. It doesn't matter. Either way works just fine. I'll show you how to switch it back and forth. Anyway, so say you want to create another waypoint. So the way I'd prefer to do it is put it in other. You could also go to waypoint here and click the waypoint button right there if you really wanted to, but I prefer to be in other. Now, you can pick any waypoint you want, but the first thing you're going to do, this is the create new waypoint button. It's like, do you want to make waypoint 6? Because you only have 5 so far. It's like, yeah, I'll make 6. You click that. Okay, so now you're looking at waypoint 6. That's the waypoint that's selected in the page here. Here's all the data. It was copied off of whatever waypoint you had in there last. I forget what I even had in there already. So let's call this hangar 13. Whoops. 13. Put it in the name title right there. Now we're going to put in the lat long, the north, and the east. There's one trick to this that you can hang up on. I already wrote down the coordinates. You don't have to put in the N or the November or the Echo. All you got to do is type the numbers. So we got 42, 14, 774 for north. No decimals, no spaces, no letters, nothing. Just the numbers. Boom. Just like that. The bottom, now for whatever reason, the easterly coordinate is going to have a 0 in front of it. So just don't forget to type that 0 and you're good. So that one's going to be 0 for 202254. Bam. There you go. And it even auto puts in the elevation for you because the A-10 actually has a database of all the terrain in the world and just happens to know how high that point is off the ground. Pretty freaking spiffy, right? Okay, cool. So now you're like, all right, let's look at hangar 13. All right, so I'm going to pull my GGP up over here on the right display. We'll put that back to the center for now. And we're going to make the HUD soy, and I'm going to cycle through my... Oh, wait, why can't I find my... Oh, that's right. Mission. Now we can come up and we can find waypoint number 6. There it is, hangar 13. So we're going to China hat forward long, slave everything to the SPI. Whoops. Make this soy, zoom in, and there we go. We are looking at hangar 13, which are those coordinates that I just talked about. Isn't that spiffy? So now if JTAC tells you that, and they're like, oh, we need you to look at this tank or kill this thing that's at this exact coordinate, then now you know how to make a new coordinate. And if you can't find it in your flight plan, it's probably because you forgot to fix this or put this at mission. Oh, one last piece to this. If you happen to get MRGS coordinates or UTM, you hit this button right here, and it's going to translate it to the UTM coordinates first. The 38 Tango right there is the overall grid, and the WG-84 is the terrain database, so you're never going to change those, ever. Ever. You're only ever going to put in these right here, which actually translates it for you, which is kind of nice. Okay, so Markpoints. Like I said, you're really just going to create them with your TGP or whatever you have set as your sense of interest. You can also come down here and hit the mark point. If you hit that, it's going to create a new one. This is mark point echo. But that's going to be, it's going to create a mark point over the exact location your A-10 was over the ground. That's not too commonly used, but, you know, whatever. And then, if for whatever reason you want to translate a mark point into a waypoint to put into your mission database, you could hit this button right here to create waypoint 7. That's going to copy the data from mark point echo and make a new waypoint out of it. That's really going down the rabbit hole here. I don't understand why you would ever want to or need to do that, but I mean, fucking go nuts. I don't care. It's your life. Do what you want. So, sort of the last thing that's relevant here that you really need to know is putting in desired time on targets. So let's go back to mission. Let's make a flight plan. So let's go to the waypoint page and let's look at waypoint 5. And now we want to get there at a certain time. So we're going to hit the page down button. If there's a little P1 of 2 here, you know there's multiple pages. Page down's right here, page down. And it'll show you the time to go and the desired time on target. So this is relevant for, like, if you've ever played any of the super awesome Maple Flag A-10 campaigns. I know the first 2 missions of the advanced qualification campaign involve air-to-air refueling and arriving at certain waypoints at very, very, very specific times. So I don't even know what time it is. What time is it right now? It's let's see, 2024. So let's say we want to get at that waypoint at 2020 or 2030. So looking at that, we're just going to enter in 20. What am I clicking these for? I can type them. 3000. Put that right there. And now, if we select waypoint 5, it's going to give us a required airspeed to get there on time, and it's comically slow because we happen to be only a couple of miles away from it, only 3.3 miles away from it, and it's still 6 minutes away until we will have to be there. So it's like, oh, fly there at 36 knots right now and you'll get there right on time. Gee, thanks a lot. So that's how you do time on targets. And that's basically it, guys. You know, once you understand how the box works and the different knobs down here, that's the really complicated parts. That's really all there is to it. So I guess that's really all I have to say about any of this. This is all the information you really need to know about waypoints and Markpoints and databases and all that crap. I mean, I guess real quick and dirty, I could go over the pages right here. You're in Other. You never need to touch this. You never need to touch this. This, you've got Waypoint, which is important. This is offset, just has to do with making new waypoints based on previous waypoints. If someone's like, oh yeah, it's 30 miles east of whatever waypoint, I mean, that's super obscure. Flight plan here is how you create and edit current flight plans, but why you'd need to make another one, I have no fucking idea, so I'm just going to not go into that. So that's it, guys. I really hope this video helped you. I hope it helped you understand, like it helped me understand, because honestly, you know, no offense to any other video makers out there, but some of those videos were just, honestly, the guys like looking at the knob and reading the A-10 manual, and it didn't really help me. So hopefully this philosophy helps you out. I really hope it did. Thank you for watching this video. I'm not going to tell you to like and subscribe my channel, because honestly I don't give a fuck if you like this video, and I don't have a channel, so I don't really care. Okay, have a good one. See ya!